This episode is brought to you by Kiko Socks. With a pair of Kikos, you'll have an experience that keeps you focused on your performance and not your feet. Use our coupon code POD15 for 15% off your order at kikosocks.com.
Welcome to Season 2 of Pod Practice, where Mama Bird alumni Quinn Feiner, Mikey Lund, and myself, Alex Atkins, talk about Ultimate from the perspective of players and coaches. We want to engage with you, so please reach out, say hi, ask a question, give some feedback. We look forward to talking with you. To reach out, follow us on Instagram or YouTube at podpractice_pod. Listen on Spotify at Pod Practice, or email us at show@podpracticepod.com. I hope you enjoyed this episode. But it did feel really awesome to be at Nationals and a bunch of people that we did know, like a couple guys on Ring, Saul, Walker. That felt really good.
That
a couple
too.
people we didn't know, like that made me feel really good. A couple kids asked me what my Feiner thing
Alex
of the day
Vu
was.
That was Alex Vu. I think that probably asked you. He asked me as well. He drove down from the Bay, which was like an 8 or 9 hour drive.
And he was young.
He's young. He's got a U20 Worlds tryout coming up soon. So good luck to you, Alex.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Another younger guy, Zach. I think Zach is actually in college, but I can't remember if he was flying in or drove in. I think he had a busted wrist too, so he was recovering. And he said hi. So shout out to you as well, Zach. Thanks for saying hi. Also, iHacker. I don't know who you are.
We love you, iHacker. All right, well, welcome back, Quinn, Mikey, to another episode of Pod Practice post 2023 Club Nationals. I think we should just get the big thing out of the way.
And fighting out of the red corner.
Congratulations.
Ladies and gentlemen, presenting the undisputed, the undefeated heavyweight champion of the world.
To Truckstop, the 2023 Club National champions. Deserving win for a good team. I think first we just get into how everyone's feeling. So, Quinn, Mikey, which one of you wants to kick us off and give your thoughts of the weekend?
Congrats to Truck, like you said. I think I had sent a message out to Rowan and Bach since they'd both come on before and congratulating them. It stings. It definitely stings not to come home with hardware, but they're definitely a deserving team. They've been an amazing team to watch for the last couple of years. So congratulations to them. My thoughts have been up and down. Like, we obviously a much different year than last year at Nationals. Going 3-0 in pool play, handling quarters pretty comfortably, and coming out super, super strong in semis. It felt at that point in the bracket, it felt similar to last year, obviously before the second half. But even like when I felt like it was sort of maybe not slipping away, but just getting tight, I was still feeling really grateful and satisfied in I think a good way in terms of Jarvis talks about this a lot, and you guys talk about this a lot when we think about what we're really trying to accomplish. Like TK summarized this really, really well. Like we're super competitive people. We want to win. That is a very, very high priority on our list. But at that point, we had already accomplished our top priority, which was kind of coalescing as a group. We had the culture vibes had been smooth sailing for a good month. I'd say it by then, like every practice felt better and better. The team really did come together, and, playing so well up until that point was just so satisfying in a way that really did check that box for me. That said, though, went to bed feeling pretty good, a little frustrated. woke up the next day definitely pretty fucking sad. Like the next 2 days are pretty tough, just knowing how close we were to have another shot at it. But feeling better and better, and in more of a grateful mood today than a sad one.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, congrats, Truck. I was pretty happy to see specifically Box and Cold Jerk Beef win because I played with them before, and
Mm-hmm.
they're some of my buddies. So that was awesome. Then that was the first time I've like starting with pool play. That's the first time I've ever not played pre-quarters. So won the pool at Nationals College Club, both of them. So I've never experienced that, which was pretty nice. So starting off on a high note, and of course, Truck followed our footsteps last year and went 1-2. So good for them.
It's a new script.
Yeah, they figured out the game plan, man. Yeah, even Box, even after I texted and congratulated him, he texted me back and said, he said, "Thanks for showing us that going 1-2 in pool play is the way to go."
That's funny.
But yeah, and then kind of like you said, handling quarters pretty easily, especially against a team like a very good revolver team, a team that had beat us pretty. The score didn't feel bad, but it felt like they handled us pretty well when we played them at Pro Champs. So getting a little bit of revenge and validation there was also good. And then going into semis, like before the weekend, I told myself like semis is a good goal to have for results at this point, and if we get there, then we can kind of reevaluate. And then once we got there and we handled the first half, that's what really made it sting. I think was giving the game away essentially in the second half. That's what really made it suck. It wasn't obviously losing sucks, but that's what really made it suck. That we gave it to them essentially. Like obviously they came out with a great game plan in the second half, and
they played super well. Yeah,
they played super well, and they're a great team. But essentially we just needed to hold a couple times, and we couldn't do that. So that's what really made it suck. And like almost from a personal standpoint too, I didn't have the effect on the game that maybe I would want. Felt like I was playing to not lose us the game instead of win us the game, and just not that's a hard part for me too, from a selfish standpoint, is like not performing the way that I wanted to, and not performing for the team the way that I wanted to and could and can and do. So that's what really hurt for me was those couple facts, but here we are. Overall it was a great season. Like we can't sit here and cry about a semis finish. Like that's a good season. A semis finish and a loss to a great team on double game point. Like we can't sit here and cry about that. But back in the gym today, gonna get back on the track here probably tomorrow. So
let's go.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Nice. What do you think, Kins?
Yeah, I think some of my biggest takeaways from the weekend. One, I think there were a lot of good teams. I think it felt deeper than it has in the past in terms of quality of teams playing. Like, I just felt like even those quarters matchups of Pony Ring, Dig Truck, like, just felt like the field was deeper this year. Like there were better teams throughout the field. So that was one of my big takeaways. And it kind of coincides with one of my other ones, which is it's hard to win a bunch of games against good teams in a row. Like if we put our pool play performance together in the bracket, like, we win all our bracket games, and, you never know what happens, but it's difficult to, just win that many games in a row and not get a little complacent, feel like, we kind of did it a little bit, and I think that was definitely one of my more interesting things, like, to notice, because like that first day of pool play was probably one of the best days of Ultimate that Bravo has had in a while. Like that, those were 2 semifinal teams that we beat like in one day.
Yeah.
Truck on Universe and Ring like pretty comfortably, honestly. Like a Ring team that beat New York and then a Truck team that won nationals. So that day was crazy. And then also just the way we handled Revolver, who was a really good team, and we just came out there and absolutely smoked them. Like we put such a good performance together. And I think that's like one of the more interesting things for me is that, like, obviously, you know, Truck went 1 and 2 and then pulled it together and won nationals after. And I definitely felt like I noticed maybe some satisfaction, like you were talking about, creep in to our team like before the semis, you know. And it's interesting though because it's not like we still played really well in the first half. But I agree with what Quinn said, which is that what really stings is that we definitely slipped in the second half and started making some not great decisions, just some like execution errors. Our defense didn't play as well. I think we were like looking to make more big plays than just make the play that like the team needed. I think a little bit. And that's definitely one of the things that, like Quinn said, is lingers the longest.
Yeah, I think we're planning to talk a little bit more about the machine game in a little bit. But overall, it's fair to say that winning's fucking hard. Really proud of the team. I really couldn't be prouder, honestly, of this year. So,
well, but what if we won? Would you be prouder then?
For sure.
I'm just kidding.
Fuck. God damn it. Yeah, man.
No, it was a great season.
Yeah,
Really
totally. I have not rewatched Joe's interview at halftime yet. Have you guys?
No, I didn't watch
I haven't, but I'm expecting fireworks. So
yeah, I think he shouts out Ulti a little bit about some of their predictions and
it's funny
and being on our payroll more or less.
Maybe the best Joe interview was when he was coaching Molly, and I think they were getting just destroyed in the first half of semis, and he says, "We spent the morning learning how to surf.
Yeah.
Looking back, that might not have been the best idea." I think it's like 8-2 or something at half, or it's something I don't know exactly.
Joe Durst is the most legendary halftime interview.
It's so good.
Yeah, you said, sorry to interrupt. The U.S. Open 2022. Who was it? I'm forgetting. Is it Katie Killebrew?
Katie
Killebrew. I'm pretty sure it was her. It was asking me if I wanted to give the halftime interview, and I was like, sure, but we got Joe, and I can't. Maybe I shouldn't be calling them out, but it was either like Toner or might have been Evan or Katie, and they were like, no, that's okay. We'll pass.
We don't
pass
want
on. Yeah, but I've learned my lesson since then. We just have to give the mic to Joe.
That is so funny. That's funny. I jotted something down here to think about because just I'd like to get you guys' thoughts on like jersey swapping with other players from their teams because it's not something that I have ever. Well, first of all, shout out Connor McHale who messaged me and wanted to swap jerseys. Yeah, swap 88s with me. So that's what got me thinking about this. It's not something that I've ever done. I think the only jerseys that I have of other people's are Will and Ben Laurie, who are, you know, some of my best friends in the sport and best, like some of my favorite teammates I've ever had. And those are like the only 2 other jerseys that I have from other people. And Connor McHale after the game messaged me on Instagram and said he wanted to swap with me. And I was just like, at first I was just like, no, like I don't want to swap.
We gotta get Connor on the pod, by the way.
Yeah.
We've been trying to get him on.
And I sent him a nice message and said like I appreciate it, but no, it's just not something I do. And I kind of sat on it like for a couple of days and thought about it. And maybe it's something I don't understand why I am against it.
It's probably because you went to CU and you
it could
wore the
be
patch.
and like you can't swap the patch. And so And then I messaged him back like a couple days later and said like, hey, like, sorry, I don't know. I thought about it, and like this is maybe something that I do want to get into. I think it's something maybe really cool that I haven't done and I would like to experience. So um, I'm gonna swap a jersey
Nice.
with Connor McHale and also with Saul Yannick, um, who's a buddy of mine too, and someone I always love playing against and chatting with, and probably the biggest pod practice fan out there.
Yes.
He loves it. So
He's a big pod.
Shout out
shout
Saul.
out Saul, what a good dude, and a great player. So I'd like to get your guys' thoughts on it. Just it's an interesting thing that I didn't really think about until this past weekend. So
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts. What do you think, Kins?
I do think the bird thing comes into play because I would never want to. You never really
Yeah.
wanted to trade your patch with other teams. I'm
mhm.
also not like a big jersey trader. I think when I think about it is when I have like now I have 2 navy blue Bravo jerseys. Like I want to keep all my jerseys
Mhm.
from teams because I like the memories of it. Like I'd rather
Same.
have my whatever Bravo jersey over like some other team's jersey. I don't really care, but like actually I thought of you. It's funny you say this because I thought of you today because I have 2 blue ones and I like trading it with my teammates.
I do
Like
too.
I want like I have Saeed's like
Oh,
old YCC jersey now. Like
yeah.
the problem is most of these people like they don't fit me. Like I know Quinn, you get like
I have XL.
all yeah, you get XL. So I do like I thought of you today because I wanted to get one of your jerseys
We should
for my
swap.
blue
That's
one.
sick. I like
Yeah,
that.
because I like it too. Because also, yeah, they're my friends. I like and we're all like very good. So it's cool. Like when you look back at it, like I like having other people's jerseys.
When I was your age, I was a super big frisbee nerd. Not that I'm not anymore. I still very much am. And I was just trying to collect jerseys. I was maybe even still buying tournament merchandise at your age, which
Ew.
don't do that. It's a
Ew.
waste of money, everybody. Oh well, I shouldn't say that. Support VC, support the frisbee companies, etc. But that shit's trash. Um, yeah, I think nowadays it really is about my teams that I care about more. Like I give away a grocery bag or two of frisbee gear. I swear to God, every year. I don't know how it keeps coming back, but I think it is cool to trade things that are meaningful. One of my best friends, who you guys definitely don't know, his name's Kyle Gill, and he played for Sub Zero for a long time. We played mixed together for a year. We're both from the same hometown, and we would swap jerseys on different teams. Other like people that you compete against regularly, things like that, I think are sweet. I
Yeah,
think that's super fun and meaningful.
yeah.
Um, and the fact that Mikhail has your number too,
Yeah,
that's kind of cool.
it is cool. Maybe I shouldn't feel honored. Maybe it was just because he wanted the 88.
Well, I don't
Nah,
know. I
I'm
mean,
kidding.
I think it's a little bit of both for sure.
Yeah, no, I was kidding.
Yeah.
yeah. Um, he seems like I talked to him briefly at the turn, like right before a game, because he had messaged us previously, and I think I can't remember if I said we should still try to get him on or not, but he seems like a cool dude, and I think Joe Durst might. I don't know if he knows Connor or it's just because Joe played for Clapham when he was in London, so they had like some familiarity.
Yeah.
But Joe had good things to say about him as well.
I think I want to move on into players that stood out to us
Yeah.
at the tournament because I did have one of my other takeaways from, I mean, honestly, a very eventful nationals, I would say,
Yeah.
is that kind of feels like, there's a new guard coming in, I would say, in terms
Totally.
of young players kind of taking over the scene. And I think it's exaggerated by the fact that COVID happened recently. There's a couple years of like, stagnation where people aren't playing. And I think it'll also be emphasized by this new Worlds team that's going to happen that hasn't happened since 2016. I just
Right.
think a lot of the names that we're familiar with, your Jimmys, your Dylans, like these types of guys are, they're starting to age out. And I think like for me, that was emphasized at this nationals because there were a lot of younger guys having really big
Really good
roles,
tournaments.
really good tournaments for the good teams, and also like a pony losing in quarters was kind of crazy. Like that was
Whoa.
pretty wild to me. Um, Definitely. And I think like it kind of goes to show with like a machine who has a Joe, a younger person. People have known him for a while, but he's, really maybe potentially blossoming. Um, at least he did. He did play really well at this tournament. A Bravo, who's a lot of young guys out of Mama Bird that people are starting to get familiar with.
Don't forget about Cody Spicer.
Don't forget about Cody. No way. But
CSU Hibida.
and it's not to say that these teams don't have the veterans. Usually there's a good balance, but there's a for sure large influx of these younger guys and like a ring with all these new North Carolina guys. But yeah, so why don't you guys, Quinn, why you want to start and give us some names that popped out at you?
Yeah. This is all going to be players that we played against. So
Yeah,
I didn't look
me
at
too, I think.
stats from the weekend at all.
Mhm.
Nothing like that. So it's all me players we played against. But
I'd
I'll
pull
kind of
that
go
up.
down the list. From Truck, um, a couple of guys. I think AJ Merriman. He always gets credit for being like a super athletic defender, but a really smart defender. He's had a couple really smart poach blocks
He did.
during the tournament. One against us, my throw to Ukins that he somehow got. The one in the dig game, which was whatever.
The controversial one. But
but
he was there, man.
Yeah, he's a good defender. I don't know if Thomas Edmonds can be considered underrated, but like him for that D line was like
Crazy
good,
good.
crazy good for that D line. So him, and then Troy Holland. We've had a lot of matchups over the last couple years, me and him, and it felt like he came out with a little bit of extra against me this time against Trucker. So, um, yeah. On ring, Alex Davis, AD, kind of gave me the business, dude. So he's a great defender, great player. And then on that team, Ben Dameron, like I still
Holy
think
cow.
he's
Yeah.
underrated. Like I don't know how he's underrated because he's just so good at everything.
He might not be.
I don't know if he's underrated. Like I don't know, but he's really good. Who else? What was our next Dark Star? I don't know any of the players on Dark Star.
Hilka Steiner, baby.
Hilka,
Let's just shout out Hilka.
Shout
the
out
bear.
Hilka. Yeah. And then on Revolver, Adam Reese, great player. People know this. He played great against us.
He did.
Ing, welcome back. He's a tough matchup. He's a great player. Stood out to me. And then Machine. I mean, I think Joe, probably the best player at the tournament. That tournament, he just like his ability to play, like just take over games, and his mindset that he just like commands the disc and always like not always but does great things with it, throws really hard throws, does the hard things that makes it way easier for the rest of his teammates. So Joe, obviously, Paul Arders had a couple sweet throws.
He did. Fuck.
The guy always plays like Paul Arders is obviously very, very talented, very good. But he plays on such a nice edge.
He does.
With his hucks, like he always throws them so edgy and takes a lot of hard shots. So when he's on, if you're playing against a Paul Arders team, you're probably going to lose. You're probably going to lose if he's on. If he's off, it's pretty good for the team that like you're probably going to win. But he was on and very, very effective. I feel like I could almost shout out that entire Machine O-line. Like Keegan North was sneaky good. The Canadian dude, I don't want to butcher his name. They call him OJ.
Yeah.
OJ
He's sort of deep
Samar.
one.
He's
that we'll talk about later, I think.
Yeah, he's great. And then I think this is the dude that was guarding me a lot of the game, who I wasn't familiar with. Um, Jeff Gow, I
Um,
believe, on machine. Um,
looking up the yeah, I'm trying to.
he was a very strong defender. Um,
What was his number? Do you remember?
Geez, I don't.
There is a Jeff Gow,
Yeah,
18.
it's him. Yeah, he was a very strong defender, and yeah, I think that's my
Wow, that was a lot of names.
That was
other names.
I have like 2, I think.
Well, those are like all the people that guarded me that like I thought did a good job, or
Mhm.
people
Sure,
that I
sure,
was
sure.
watching. Yeah.
Sure.
so there is a way, and I've done this a million times over the years of clicking around the USA Ultimate website to get the stats for the entire tournament in one list. I always forget the order of clicks though. I can easily get ours and other teams individually. But I'll I'll shout out 2 players. Um
I got one more. Sorry.
okay, go
It's
for it.
it's not a surprise either. It's Nate Goff. His ability to this is mostly from a defensive side of the standpoint. His ability to guard
All types.
quick players in the handler set for being like 6'4" or whatever he is insanely impressive. The way that he guards quicker players in smaller spaces.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm done.
Um I'll give a quick bravo. Well, shoot, I have more than a few, more
Well,
than 2.
are we doing Bravo players? I could.
Can
could
I?
do, Yeah, go for it. I didn't
I'm
on
stealing the
purpose,
mic
but
from you now.
go. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Noah Coolman for us. Obviously, huge tournament. All sides, he the thing earlier in the season, Joe and I were talking about Noah and trying to figure out how to get him not on offense. It was actually a pro champs when we were running like an upwind line and we were wanting to get him on that line. But Noah has some quirks in his game and some unpredictabilities, but it's so worth it because that guy is a fucking playmaker.
Yeah.
He defensively, those fucking blocks that he gets, his throws, he's for some reason we do not categorize him as a thrower, but he is. He's a very good thrower. He's a strong thrower, and obviously as a receiver, that athleticism is 99th percentile in the sport. Present company notwithstanding, I'll move on to Denny Beaches for us as well because we call him two-time. Denny two-time, 2 national titles, 3 if you who knows how many if you count all levels,
dude. Like 4.
I think my biggest regret from the semis is I didn't just run everything through Denny. We should have just called more stuff for him. I have a lot of regrets at this point, sort of. And then from other teams, I guess I'll just stick to the machine folks. Nate Goff, obviously, for the reasons you mentioned, such a difference maker. Bansfield, we'll talk about Bansfield more, but was so disruptive.
Yeah.
With the way he can cover the field and not get torched that often by the guy that he's leaving. And then obviously Joe White. Joe, he's the best player in the world right now. I think there's a lot of people who can potentially take that torch from him pretty soon. Maybe I would include my present company, but I think Joe's got the belt right now. He's the best player in the game. He does not let a possession go away or go by without him affecting it. We almost criticized him for that before because in similar way that you were talking about Arter, is like if Joe's not on, then he can lose you a game. He was fucking on the entire tournament and is, in my mind, the reason they made such a strong run.
For sure.
What about you, Kins?
I have a couple. I'll steal the Coolman one from you. I thought Coolman obviously had a huge weekend. Maybe not as good of a semifinal as he would have liked. but he did play amazing.
Mm-hmm.
All the games. Just so athletic and really intelligent thrower. And I think like just scratching the surface too of like how good he can be. Like this is the first year he had this kind of role on a team that was this good. And so I think like the more we play together, the more we talk about things, like the ceiling is incredibly high for him. I'll go on the Joe one as well. I agree. Yeah, definitely probably the best player at the tournament. And I think like it's so important in those kind of games and in those moments when the pressure is on to have someone who seemingly doesn't feel that pressure and has such a big impact. And it's like when you have someone who's going to be able to affect that many offensive points, like you said, like the impact they can have on a team, it's similar to like a quarterback, in the NFL or like a starting pitcher in baseball. Like they can have that kind of impact. So Joe, and then I wanted to do the Ben Dameron one as well. I think Ring is a really good team, but I think he's the one that stands out to me. He's just a competitor, and I really like that aspect of him. And so I think those are probably the players as a whole. And interesting. No one really from like I want to pick someone from Truck, and I'm just not really sure who to pick because I think they play a little. They play just really well as a team, and they're deep. So no one really like stood out to me. I mean, I think Rowan's an obvious one just because he has a similar impact on the game in terms of touches and the difficulty throws that he makes to just unlock offenses. I mean, God, he had one just inside.
Those OEOs
are
OEO
just ridiculous, dude. Like he had one in the game against us, and I'm like,
yeah,
you're looking and throwing windows that I just not even fucking considering, honestly.
Yeah, he throws it so early too.
It's unbelievable. Like, and I think that's a big chemistry thing for those teams. But yeah, I would say those were my like real standouts from the weekend.
Yeah. And I could do a whole love fest on our team, honestly.
Yeah, that's why I omitted.
Yeah. Yeah. How about one more for us, and maybe you guys would have some to add. Jarvis, defensive nightmare, and for us, I think. Would you guys say he's our cultural leader at this point?
He's one of them.
For sure.
I'd say he's one of them.
Yeah, one of them.
And that block he got on Joe was
pretty sick.
It's crazy, dude. It was crazy.
Insane.
Yeah.
My favorite part of this is a Kin story. After Kins got that block, or Kins got Jarv got that block on Joe, Kins is like strutting up the sideline, just like talking to their team, saying, "Wow, that's tough. Your best player just getting D'd up like that. That's real tough, man." Just walking up and I like have to remove myself from the situation because I'm just like, this guy is out of control. So that was hilarious. But they obviously got the last laugh. But that was fucking so funny.
Yeah, that was incredible.
I'll give another one from our team. I could give them to every single player on our team, but for Jay,
he's on my mind.
Like, he's playing an entirely different role for us that he's never played in his career, like ever, and he's doing it so well. He's such a gamer. Like, when the game starts, you just know like you're gonna get a crazy play from Jay, or a couple crazy plays from Jay. So, that D in the Truckstop game was bonkers, like crazy
on Rowan
on an under that was like shoulder high. It was crazy. But yeah, I could go down the list, but that's like just that D sticks out.
Yeah, let's go into, I mean, we have which team's feeling the worst right now, which I thought was a funny question. Most of the teams probably that didn't win.
Yeah. Every team but Truck is feeling terrible.
Truck, dude.
Dig or Pony got to be feeling the worst, right?
Yeah.
Maybe Pony.
Yeah, maybe Pony. That's tough.
Oof.
All the like roster hype and then and the injuries too.
Yeah.
That always sucks as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate to see that. But yeah, probably it's like hard to feel bad for them. Not the people who got injured, obviously, but like for them as a team as a whole, because it's like, yeah, they lost Babbitt and Sam, but it's like, yeah, you still got Jack and
You still
Ryan
got the
and
best
Chris.
roster at the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, or perceived best roster. I think like
Perceived.
at least like notable names. Yeah, it's really interesting from just like, and that's what I'm saying. Like the teams were just so good this year. Like they're just, all like we were talking. I think we talked a little bit about all the teams that people were saying could win. Just so many good teams. Even a chain that just got put up in a tough game against Truck in pre-quarters. I mean, I guess
Universe.
took them to uni. I mean, fuck, they got to be feeling pretty bad too.
Yeah.
And I think that's really interesting, honestly, that Truck lost 2 games and then goes on the run similar in the bracket. Like sometimes sometimes things aren't going to go your way, and then sometimes they are. And it's like almost like that reset of losing a couple games in pool play can catapult you into like winning and being a little more focused. Cause yeah, I do think it's really tough to beat all those good teams, but it's one of the interesting things. Like nationals before you lose is so magical, and as soon as you lose, all that negativity for me starts to creep in. Like I don't want to be in this house with everyone anymore. I want to go home, be in like my own space. Like it really becomes this amazing vacation to just like a fucking trap of a place, in my opinion. Like I always notice that too. Like college, club, whatever it be, like all that positivity that you're feeling before that you focus on is great, and then that negativity starts to creep in afterwards, and I always makes me so sad to see.
I wonder if any teams that we mentioned or are thinking about are actually feeling good about themselves, though. Maybe they thought it was a good run and are hopeful for the future. I am hopeful for the future for what it's worth.
That's good. Yeah, I think it's easy to be. I think
Easy.
I feel good that we as a team will be in this position a lot. Yeah.
Ideally, right? I think the last 2 years have also shown us right how thin the margins are.
Totally.
We'll be in the conversation in the hunt, I think, but who knows?
For sure. I think one thing we should talk about is the observers at the tournament, and not necessarily the observers, but just it was a hot topic. Was calls seemingly being called incorrectly at the tournament, and just like I mean, I guess it started probably with I think probably what happened was it started in the Dig Truck game at the end, and then people were really focused on it, and so
Yeah.
everyone was talking about it. But there was like that up and down call in the finals.
Oh, I haven't seen that one yet.
I'm still confused about the strip call, my strip call in the machine game. Like just kind of like the direction of the sport even, and like where it's going, because we've talked about it before and the difference between this and the ADL, and like it's just, and like I've even seen some like people comments like about our game that like there was a lot of animosity was also created by the fact that no calls were like agreed upon. Like everything was sent to the observer, and so it just can create a lot of, I don't know, frustration, I guess, between the players. Whereas if you have a ref, like you get like, I think we've noticed that a little bit too in like the ADL is like you tend to get more frustrated at the ref than maybe the other team, and maybe that's good.
Yeah, I don't know. You guys may remember my take on the integrity rule has changed because it still leaves that gray area for us to get angry at the other team, which I don't know. I don't love. Yeah, I mentioned to both of you. I did speak to an observer after the tournament at the airport who mentioned that refs are better than observers because refs can ensure that players are playing according to the rules. That said, we have not had consistent and great experience with referees either. But from the standpoint that Machine in the second half had ramped up the physicality to 11, we were, I think, fair to say, not completely prepared for that, and it had a significant impact on the game. Well, I guess I'll let you guys answer that question, but impacted the game, and observers can't do anything about that unless players are calling it. So, um, no blue cards can be issued for excessive fouling, etc., if players are not calling it. So, from the standpoint of comparing refs to observers, that's an interesting position to be. Whether or not a team is doing things intentionally is sort of beside the point. The point is what can observers do and how can they impact the game?
Yeah. I mean, the two things I will say, like after this, are one that I think the biggest problem I still have is that people don't know the rules. So how is it supposed to be a self-officiated game if you were to poll the people playing in the finals, in the semifinals, in the quarterfinals? It would Everyone would fail. There'd be like the two nerds maybe
Yeah.
on a team that wouldn't fail. And honestly, that would be surprising. So this idea of like, yeah, spirit of the game and like all of this kind of stuff, you can't be self-officiated unless you figured out a way to make everyone knows the rules. And I don't see that as very realistic. Two, I love it. Summer League, little rec ultimate. You don't need a fucking ref. It's you can call fouls. That's great. At this level, when everyone is competing so intensely, it is wildly hard to be in a mindset of like an intense competitor while also thinking about calls to be making. It's like I think about it a lot with like, travel calls. Like I'm on the mark. I'm trying to block the throw or make the throw difficult. And I'm supposed to be looking at the feet of the person. It's just a little unrealistic, I think. And I think the more competitive the sport gets and like how intensely it's getting played at these highest levels, it really makes it difficult because I just don't know how realistic it is to maintain the self officiating when the stakes feel so high to all the people competing.
Yeah, and I think like on that point and to the point of like people contesting calls, like a call in a semi or a final or a quarter, like it's gonna get contested. Like it is going to be contested, even if the person
Right.
deep down knows it was a foul or it wasn't a foul or whatever. It's like the stakes are too high for that like call to be made like correctly. Like it's not gonna happen.
Right.
And it's hard to say that refs are the answer because I haven't had that many good experiences with refs in the AUDL. Yeah, I mean and I think other sports have this issue like all the time. Like,
Yeah.
and I think that's like just the way sports are. Like we need to have refs, and they need to be able to make mistakes because it's going to happen.
Right.
Yeah, I think we need to lean into video review more. I don't know why we haven't started using video review more. Obviously the dig one would have been different. The up down in the final would have been different.
What happened? What happened
It
with
was
the up
like
down one?
an inside. I think Bloodgood threw it to Holland, and it was close. You could. There's no way of telling in real time. It ended up being called up by the observer, and then like a footage of it later got released, and there was like a frame of it
Really?
clearly being down. And then Kins, the one I threw to you in the semi, it's just like it's a clear strip on video. Like it's pretty hilarious. And that was ended up not being a strip. So it's just like why don't we use video more? And I don't, to your question too, Mike, I don't think the physicality that Machine brought like affected the game in a way that is significant.
Mm-hmm.
But it is hard to be thinking about the fouling while you're playing. Like I wasn't even thinking about them fouling me while I was playing because I'm playing. Like I'm not even thinking about that.
Right, you're thinking about how to beat it, and so
yeah.
it's so hard because if you slip into like that, everything is a foul. Like you lose some of your aggression to start like beating it.
Interesting.
Yeah. I almost have worse experience with people playing foul-y-ish in the AUDL than I do in clubs. So it's hard to say that refs are the correct way to handle it as well.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think people probably do more intentionally foul in the AUDL because it's easier to get away with.
Yeah. There would need to be like 6 refs, I think, for it to be refereed properly.
Or just like loosen up what a foul is, I guess. You know?
Just play more
like
physical.
Obviously if you're like holding, that's a foul. But the other thing about USA Ultimate is that people like not only do people not know the rules, like their interpretations of the rules are different. So one team's view of what a foul is downfield is wildly different from what another team's view of a foul is. And it's like, yeah, you can go game to game, I suppose, like figuring it out. But it's difficult.
Yeah, I spent some time reading the strip rule after semis because of the play you were talking about when Kins caught that one. Are you mentally in a place to handle some devil's advocate?
Oh yeah.
So here's what for the listeners. Quinn threw a deep shot to Kins with Goff on him. Kins made a sweet play to come back and grab it over Goff, and as his hand is coming down with the disc in it, hits Goff's leg, and the disc flies out. So if you think about it from different perspectives, like if I have the disc and have possession, and I'm throwing, and I pivot and I hit the disc on your leg, and it comes out, that's a strip. That there's no question about that. That is how everybody interprets that rule. If there's anybody who doesn't, I don't know. I've never played against someone who doesn't interpret it that way. This one though is interesting. There is some mention in the rules of contact immediately before and after the reception, and how it can be considered incidental. But this one is not. So, but what's confusing? It's definitely not. It definitely impacts the result of the play. But if you think about it from like Kins, if you were on defense and you sky Goff and then strip it on his leg, who do you think possession should be awarded to?
Well, double turn isn't a thing.
Well, why is it not a thing?
I don't know.
Well, I
don't know the rules.
I'm confused. Like I wouldn't.
So
I just
say
feel
you were
like it's the same. Why would I feel differently about if I was on defense than if I was?
So if you were on defense, you would feel like what?
That I got stripped.
And you should maintain possession. So
right.
Okay.
Well, what's interesting is like what Frito said and what they said is that I initiated the contact, and that was like their reasoning for it not being stripped. But I don't understand how we're both moving. His leg is like up at the waist. My arm is coming down. So in my mind, unless he's standing, like me initiating contact.
Yeah, that explanation is bogus to me.
Right. It doesn't make any sense.
To me, there's no mention of who initiates contact in the rule book. And I'll read it again, but I did read it fairly extensively after that game, and there's no mention of that. It is, like you had possession. The only thing that I don't like the explanation. If he had explained that differently to you,
But that's because I don't think there's a way to explain it that it would make it not a strip.
It feels like a gray area.
There's no way that if you catch a disc and on the way down with another person who's playing the game with you and they hit it out of your hand, that not a strip.
Right. So anyway,
Yeah, it's just I don't know. It's just weird, and it leaves I guess it leaves me confused on what a strip is. I will say.
the I did also hear perspective on the dig call, and that is that it sounds like the observers did say they got the call wrong, but that in the moment on the field, all four observers had the same perspective. There was no question about it to them, that they were all in their mind. It was just not a strip.
And I think that's fine. I think human error, it happens. Like they should be given the grace to make mistakes. And I almost feel that with observers are not given the grace to make mistakes like referees are, because the players talk about it and then they go to the observer and it's like, you should know. It feels like they're not allowed to make mistakes as opposed to refs are.
Totally.
It's like a mindset thing for the players, but like they can't call that in real time. It can't be called correctly in real time. It's a 50-50 shot. Like it really is.
Yeah.
Maybe we got to implement challenges where you go to instant replay.
It's a thing. Like it technically is. Like you can go to the camera in the back of the end zone. Like,
But
Did you hear
imagine,
it?
but imagine like you really like in football and basketball, any other sport where you can like actually challenge the call that's been made.
and it is funny because like in the NFL they did a season with where you could challenge PI, pass interference, and then they abolished that rule the next year because it didn't work.
Because it's so hard.
Rules are up for like interpretation. Like what a catch is not
Yeah.
it's not objective.
Yeah, it's
It's
more of
crazy.
like a feel thing. Like, did it feel?
Yeah.
And guess what? It felt like I got stripped. It felt like a strip for sure.
Yeah.
I've actually never been so surprised by the ruling that an observer gave. Like when
The
I
look
went
on
to
your face was pretty
when
funny.
I went to Frida, I was like, for sure, this is thing. And what makes it even worse is that the like very pro machine crowd obviously just
Oy
lays
vey.
into you after, and you're like, I swear, guys, it was a strip. I caught it, and it hit him in the leg, and I don't know what else to do about it. Like,
Yeah.
that was funny, but yeah, I mean, it's tough. I don't know. I don't know and maybe it just was because of this year, but it does seem like, with technology, maybe there's ways to implement a little more of that kind of stuff, and
At
maybe
a very select
challenges.
few tournaments, yeah.
And I like one thing I do think that like Frito, and the observers in our game did well was like I thought they did a little bit of a better job of like keeping things moving.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big thing, is like you gotta just go. And I like, that's why you have challenges. It's like, okay, make the call. And then maybe you get a couple challenges per game if you really want to look into an extra one when it's like a big moment, like a universe point strip call. Because it feels bigger than something that happens in the middle of a game. But I think one of the biggest things is like for entertainment purposes and like people wanting to watch the game, which like, I don't know. I don't know what the point of Ultimate is. Like maybe it's not so people will watch, but it's nice to watch and be entertained by sports. I feel like that's a big portion of sports. So keeping the game moving feels like a really important aspect of it to me.
It's pronounced, is it Nathan Kolakovic? Is that how you say his name?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Your guess is as good as mine, man.
And one of the I'm trying to qualify this better. Videographers, obviously we know a couple great ones. Shout out Richard, shout out AK, shout out Chuck, who all said hi this weekend. There was during the dig, I actually have a couple funny stories about this. The dig strip call. There was like Nathan obviously right at the back of the end zone, and there's a crowd of people. So kind of going back to your review suggestion, they're actually all shouting at the observer that it's on camera, and they should take a look. And they must just not have heard, but
So I think the rule is that the players have to decide to go to the camera. And
Oh,
if the
really?
players do not decide to go to the camera, the observers, the sideline, I think other players that weren't involved in the call cannot actually do that. It has to be the players involved in it.
Got it.
I'm pretty sure.
So the other funny second half of this story, immediately after that game concludes, Nathan rushes over to watch the end of the ring pony game, and so he's filming that from the back of their end zone now. And Josh Klein, who is what I can only assume has consumed a few alcoholic beverages by this point, is hovering over his shoulder and asking for the replay, and they're watching this happen on camera in slow motion. And then Alex Crew walks up to watch. Truck coach walks up to watch the end of the pony ring game, and he's just like, "What's the score? How's it going over here?" But at the top of his lungs, Klein is like shouting how there's clear footage of this terrible call, and you can see the dig player grasping the disc while Merriman strips it a frame afterwards. And he's just like describing it so crystal clear. And Alex is just like standing there 2 feet away in just dead silence. It was just sort of a funny moment to witness.
Honestly, that portion of the tournament was like some of the most exciting ultimate spectating
I was so
I've ever
stressed,
had.
man.
Like the ring,
Just watching those games.
ring pony, and then the dig truck, and like they were happening, on pretty much like next to each other fields was just awesome. Like going back and forth, seeing. I mean, for a little bit, it felt like both truck and pony were going to lose, which was obviously surprising because they were the favorites kind of going in. So that was awesome.
Yeah, it was electric for sure.
It definitely was, and that's another thing. Maybe is like, God, holy. Let's talk about this actually. That stadium, that
Dude,
warm up field.
so
Oh
bad.
boy.
Embarrassing.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. That was really, really.
What are we doing, man?
It is embarrassing, and it's like, I don't know. I guess like I'd be interested. I think for our games and stuff, there are a lot more people in the stands, so it makes sense to have it in a stadium, I guess. But like, I don't know. It really kind of sucked. Like that warm up field, like behind the fields of like,
It was terrible.
it's like not good. Yeah,
I'm
it's
not gonna shit. Like it was
doesn't-
fucking awful,
it doesn't
dude.
feel good as a player to be warming up on like this weird
Roly
dirty
poly hill.
right, like just like bumpy dusty hill or field behind like
With a swarm of bees.
and we're like so far away from like any bathroom like that you could ever
Yeah.
want to use. Like there's just so many things like,
And this
And-
is like the semi-final and the final of the pinnacle of the sport.
yeah, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. And like I don't want to make it feel like we're complaining about it, but like
I am.
just like just like I wish there was a way, like especially those fields, right? Okay, let's say another thing, like those fields are phenomenal. Great fields. Those Del Mar fields are like
Yeah.
beautiful so it's like, I don't know. I like would love to maybe just have them there and people got to figure out how to watch, and I don't know, like just something that I was thinking about. And then you're playing on turf. It just really wasn't as ideal. And I
Yeah.
guess I would just be interested in like, I really would just like to hear their like thought process on like the pros of like this stadium versus like other stadiums, or just having it at the fields, like that kind of stuff. Cause it was hard and felt odd, like warming up for the semifinal of nationals on the field.
Yeah, the turf was definitely not high quality either. And the wind in that stadium was definitely weird.
Was it?
Yeah, it was a weird stadium wind, for sure. I don't know if it was weirder than the other ones, but
Yeah. That I care less about. It's more just the quality and like
the quality was
I
poor.
think the warm up field was just the oddest part of it, because you're trying to warm up for this like what's like, one of the biggest games you'll probably like pretty much like, maybe ever play in and that kind of stuff. And it's
Yeah.
like just a weird feeling that I'd like to, I don't know,
And touching on the
look
bee
more
thing.
into.
So before we go to warm up, this is kind of funny. Before we go to warm up on these horrible fields, one of the USAU people was like, you cannot go over to the water bin or the water cooler on the warm up field because there is a bee's nest. And we're like, okay, cool, sounds good. So we go down there, we're warming up. About halfway through our warm up, I'm standing there with a couple other people, and we keep looking over, and there's like this gigantic swarm of bees. It's probably 1,000 bees. It's so many bees. And we look over, and they're just there, and we're like, okay, whatever. And then like 10 seconds later, we look over again. We're like, that's getting closer to us. And literally, the wind was just blowing this humongous swarm of bees directly through our tent where all of our stuff was and where everybody was. So we have to like scatter on the fields, run away
They caught the scent of Red Bull.
from these 1,000 bees. This
That
is
was
before
weird.
the semifinal of the nationals. Like
It's weird. It was a
It
whole
was-
weird
yeah.
thing.
Well, USA, you didn't have control over the bees, at least.
No,
What if-
not the
what if they
bees,
planted 'em?
just it was odd. That's
It was
all
odd.
I wanted to say. Really,
Yep.
was it felt odd, and it was like a weird. It's like I don't need to be pampered. Obviously, I'm playing Club Ultimate. Like I don't expect like I expect to bring most of my own things and like this kind of stuff, but I
Hard to-
don't know. It's
Hard
like
to take yourself seriously.
that's part of it. Yeah, for sure. Like
You know
Yeah,
what I
there's-
was thinking is that I need to have coaches. We need to have different types of warm ups for you guys because it was a little unreasonable to expect to run full speed and compete on that field to warm up to get up to speed.
No, you couldn't really.
You couldn't.
Yeah.
It would have been dumb. It was so bumpy. I don't know. Just something I was thinking
Yeah.
about definitely before the game. Like the whole thing was just kind of weird, but
All right.
Moving
all
on.
right. Moving on to the I guess we talk about the machine game. I guess we talk about all right, let's get it out of the way. Get the whole shove situation that out of the way. I don't know. I guess I could tell the story from my perspective. That would
That would be
help.
fun.
That would be fun. So this will be interesting. So I guess like the whole point actually Bansfield was guarding me. And actually before the point, Nut was like, hey, I don't see anyone out there that's gonna guard you, because everyone was like super short on their line. And I was like, I looked down there and saw like maybe not even like a 6-foot person on their D line. And I was like, okay, for sure. And then when Bansfield came down, and I think it was maybe his first point, at least being like initially matched up on me, I was like, I'm just going to go pretty much stand near the end zone or like not actually, but like make cuts into the end zone like every time the thrower gets the disc because when there's someone like that short guarding me, it just seems like an easy choice. So then Tape gets it, throws the hammer. I score. I don't even know how much the contact really like registered with me. I think it's more that like it was after the
Moment.
11 point. We were scoring to go up 13-12. It was a big moment in the semifinals. I'm pretty fucking pumped up. The contact I wouldn't say necessarily registered with me, but it's funny. I look over. Bansfield was looking at me, so I looked at him, and I think he goes, "Are you okay?" And I think he meant it. Sincerely. I don't know, but it's like it didn't like really register to me as like a sincere thing because it wasn't like that much contact that I was like worried about getting hurt from it, or it's like I wasn't like upset about the contact. Like I think a lot of people maybe thought like I was like annoyed about the contact. I think like you get pretty used to that level of contact in those games. But it didn't really register to me as like a genuine question of like, are you okay? Just because I didn't feel the need to be like, yes, I am okay. Thank you for asking. And so he just looked at me and I looked at him in like my pretty intense like competitor like face. And then I looked away and spiked it super aggro, which I mean, to be fair, like I'm really fucking pumped up. Like you make a big play and a big moment of a big game, your adrenaline definitely is high. And then like even the push like didn't really register with me. Like it wasn't like, oh my, like I felt in danger, like I need to get ready to like do
Did you know it
something.
was him right away? Because you were.
Yeah, I knew it was him, but I didn't like I just didn't really like think much of it. Like I'll be honest, like I saw everything like unfolding before me, but like I'm really intense and really like competitive, but I never feel like I'm going to fight people or like I want to like get into it with people. Like I love some shit talk. I love like trying really hard, but I always feel very in control in terms of like what I'm going to do, I guess, like physically to other people. And so like the whole push thing was just like odd to me. And I just turned around and I saw like some people run in, and I don't even know necessarily what was going through my head. Like I guess I was thinking about like pulling them away. I was like, I was fine. And then just walked off, and like a bunch of machine guys like high-fived me as I walked off, and we're like, we're sorry about that. Which I thought was pretty funny and maybe made me feel like a little better. Yeah, and that's pretty much what happened, how I saw it.
And then now we have the legendary meme.
Yeah, like all that stuff was so funny. Most of the text I've
Yeah.
received about it and like people talking about it, I think it was like super entertaining. Like my friends who don't play Ultimate were just like, this is hilarious. Like, and honestly, like enjoyable to watch, which I think is funny because I think a lot of the like, you know, more diehard like Ultimate spirit of the game people are like, the sport is dying. It's how will we recover? Spirit of the game is dying. And I'm like, I think this just goes back to the whole point of like, it's really competitive. Like that game in particular felt really intense. And like, I wouldn't, the push, you shouldn't go and like be pushing people, I suppose. But even just in that moment, like, I don't know, like emotions are very, very high. And I just like, I think like sometimes those things, like maybe people who don't like get to that level of competition don't necessarily understand, but like you're pumped up to the fucking max. Like it feels like a very intense situation, even though like when you're just watching on TV, you're like sitting in your living room, like you're like, what the fuck are they doing? But in the moment, it feels like very intense. And so I don't like necessarily think what he did was crazy. I mean, I think it's so rare in our sport. Like no one ever pushes anyone really. So I understand like getting ejected from it for it and whatnot, but I don't think it was like, you know, completely out of. I will say though, like Johnny has always seemed a little unhinged to me, like playing him before. And like
Same.
I did watching back the game, like notice him try to trip tape on a point. Like I think everyone has different levels of like how they compete and stuff. And I think a lot of people would look at the stuff that I do in terms of like how I like taunt the other team and how I like celebrate and get fired up as like things that they wouldn't like condone. So I think there's just like that level to it. But I don't
Like you don't think he was.
It wasn't super malicious.
It wasn't malicious, but I also don't feel like
Yeah.
bad for him. Like I didn't
Yeah.
like feel like I didn't feel
Sure.
bad for what I did. Like, and I didn't feel bad that like he got ejected or had to like sit out. Like,
Yeah. I will say you were definitely under their skin. Like
Oh, dude.
that was like a culmination
Yeah,
Yeah.
culmination.
Of you talking shit relentlessly for 24 points or whatever it was.
No,
before
because
that.
it was just the first half. Because this is
That's
actually
fair.
something
Yeah,
I
that's
was talking
fair.
about before. Is like we were playing well, they weren't, and like honestly, this is something I think would be interesting to talk about because like you said, like my type of shit talk was like, yeah, wow, that's crazy. Like your number one player just got D'd by our guy, or like I love like when they get broken to be like, you know, like you guys got it. Like just get back out there on the line. Like keep trying. Like you're so close. Like you're really gonna get this next one. Or like when they crossed, you know, like some people over before half, and I threw that nice one to tape. Like I was like, you know, just if you cross like 2 or 3 more people over, you're definitely getting that one. Like next one you do it. Like so like in the moment, like what I'm saying, I don't think is like super malicious or like personally
Do you
mean.
think it motivates them to play harder?
It totally depends on the person. Like for them, I think they were it was ruining their day, their game. Like they were. I don't think
So
it was
when they did
motivating.
start to play better, would you just attribute that to them internally sort of coming together and
Yeah, I
figuring
don't
it out?
know. It's an interesting one. I'm not sure. I mean, I think it definitely then goes. It definitely does play a part into that, like them playing harder later. But I think about it like last year when we played them, and I had like some pretty. Like I even remember like after we had played them in quarterfinals and like Shock coming over to me and be like, when you said like Machine, it's not your day, like that really got to me. Like
Oh, I
that
do
really
remember
affected
that.
me. Like there is a level of like it really affects them. I also think though, like once the game flips, like they started to get a little more amped up, and then yeah, of course they want to beat you that much more because
Do you
you've been like
think are you a top 5 most satisfying person to beat in Ultimate? Does that make sense?
that's gotta be right. Like
Yeah.
Definitely,
people
dude.
people love like you
Might be
don't want
top
to.
3,
Yeah, I think
2.
now especially like might be like
Your
right like
people's are you yeah, your public enemy number 1.
yeah. And I know I think about it a lot and I just don't know. Like it's so different in Ultimate, like the sport we play, like the whole like trash talking thing. Because again, like what I'm saying is not like I'm just being annoying and like kind of like messing with them, but like it's not like I'm like saying these like egregious things that are like just out of pocket and like completely
Yeah.
random. They're pertaining to what's happening, and I'm just messing with the fact that they're not playing well and stuff. And like it's just like a weird. I just like don't know what the line is or like how I want to act because like there's part of me that's like, yeah, maybe I just never say anything to the other team and like that's also fun. But there's also
Well,
like part of who I am is just like some like it's just kind of part of who I am is like when I get super competitive and like my ego's really up there and I like to just kind of like I don't know bully. Is it bullying? Like I guess
I knew Quinn had a pee emergency. I just
yeah,
knew it.
but it's like something like that. I don't know. Like I would need maybe like a psych psych like a psycho analysis of like why I do these things.
Yeah. Well, and not to cut you off or make it seem like you've talked about this too long, but we have been talking about this for a decent amount of time, which makes it interesting from the standpoint of like it has some sort of impact on us or the game.
Well,
And
for
even if it's
sure.
positive or negative, like probably not the thing that we want to be talking about the most from the game, right?
I guess so. I mean, I think it depends. Like we said, like people find it pretty entertaining,
It
and
is
like
entertaining.
a lot
You
of
are
the
an
story,
entertaining guy.
a lot of like storylines from like other sports are typically like.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting to get, the player's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Quinn, I knew it. I could tell.
Dude, I had to pee so bad.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of have to too, but, um, yeah, give us the, maybe 10-second final sentence on this one, Kins, on like what you think about that incident and, or just, the feeling
Well, I
of
don't
it.
think much about the incident. I just think it was really intense game and emotions. I guess boiled over for some parties involved
Mm-hmm.
who couldn't, I suppose, handle it. But I think just like on the greater thing, and maybe this is just a topic for another pod, is just like overall shit talking in Ultimate and what like the ethics of it, I guess.
And how it fits in with like spirit of the game.
How it fits in with spirit of the game and just the game we play and that kind of stuff. Because I do, I think about it a lot, obviously, because I'm someone who does it, and I just don't know. I don't know where and what the line is. So
Yeah, I don't think I do either. My final thought about it is, it's something that I don't really want to change about you either. Like, I think, there are pros and cons of it, right? Like, it's something that I would never do. It's something that probably can potentially rile your opponent up in like a way to make them compete harder. It can also crush them, like you were mentioning. But from my perspective, we've mentioned this before, how I think the best way, just turning this into a little bit of a coach's corner segment, I think the best way to get the most out of your players is to sort of meet them where they're at and let them be themselves. Don't pigeonhole people into being a certain archetype or personality type. I'm really thankful that we have that kind of culture within Bravo that allows people to do that. And we have people of such different backgrounds too. And the fact that you guys can be so cohesive is what I'm most pleased about, I think, as a coach.
Oh, and the thing I forgot to mention, I think how this started too, was Quinn was saying I had been shit talking for like 24 points, was that the Observer told me to stop at halftime. The Observer told me to stop taunting them, which I think is another interesting topic, just because it's like, what is allowed in the game, and like what shouldn't be allowed, and like that kind of stuff, because
like what is the point? What is the point of telling you that? I don't know.
I mean, I think it's probably to keep emotions.
It's prevent what happened at 13-12?
Yeah, 100%. Like I think that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to keep the game like calmer and not get like out of hand, for sure. But I also think there's just so many interesting like parts of it, because I also, like, obviously as someone who shit talks a lot, like, you notice the people that it pisses off.
Yeah.
And the people that it pisses off are not people that I would elect to be friends with in real life, because generally they are just a little more like tightly wound, and maybe not, I don't want to say not like, I don't want to say they're not aware of themselves, but like, because what I'm joking about is like what's going on, and so like someone who's aware is going to be like, yeah, you're right, like we just got broken, like now I'm going to go like back on this O-line and like shut Kins up. Or there's the people that just get like super fucking triggered by it. It's really interesting.
So my perspective on it, on shit talk in general, I think it's fine. I think it has a place in the game. But when people make it personal, when people talk about a specific person, or like anything about a specific person, like all the stuff that you were saying is not about a specific person. When people talk about specific people and make it personal, that's when I do not think it has a place in the game. And that's when the people doing that are just bad shit talkers, and in general, probably not very self-aware, like you're saying, and in general, people that I don't generally like. Like, if you're shit talking about personal stuff, right, you're a bad shit talker and probably not a great person.
Would you say, Kansas, Saul kind of trash talks like you, right?
Yeah, like there was one where I threw like, because I was so excited to play Ring, because I was like, they boo, and like that's like the funniest thing to me is like get to like boo them if they're not playing well, and like see how they handle it, because like if they get upset at the fact that you're booing after they get broken, like it's just so funny, because that's like supposed to be their thing, and like to me that is like, I just think it's hilarious.
I did think it was fun to play Ring, and I felt like it was because of guys like Saul who have a sense of humor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He would just, like, every time it was like a tightly contested throw or like high style, he'd be like, uh-oh.
Yeah, he was saying, I was on the sideline with the disc at one point, and he was just like right behind me on the sideline going, uh-oh.
Right.
Uh-oh.
And then like, and like the other thing is like, at least I'm not the type of person that talks shit, but like if people are doing it to me, like I really don't, like I almost just, I guess, view it as a part of the game, because I think I threw a turnover to tape on like a high release backhand, and they got the disc and called a timeout, and we're like going into our huddle, and Saul's like, kids, like you got to work on that one. Like you got to work on that as like a rounds, right? And Saul, since I know you're probably listening to this, like, I don't know if that was before probably was before you threw that flick into the ground, which is super tough, like a super tough look. Because it's like there's so many.
He
like,
made fun of himself for that too, actually, later.
Well, that's the thing though, is like, and that's why like someone like Saul, it's like he's aware of like something like that was like I wouldn't get upset at Saul for joking me about it because yeah, I threw a fucking turnover like on the round. Like if you let that get to you, you're just like denying the fact of like what's happening. Like it's just to me, like I think it's funny and it's almost like a way of like you can tell, like you can like test the waters and you can tell like who's gonna acknowledge the fact that they fucked up a turn and like be like, you know what, Kins, yeah, like fuck you, like I did fuck up, so
Yeah.
go away. And then there's the people who like just cannot handle it, and it's and the other thing is when I find in the games when I find people that cannot handle it, it is so hard to not keep
pushing the button
because it's like like you know what I mean.
Yeah. Okay. Let's tie a bow on this because I think maybe for the listeners like me, is this an interesting topic? Like, would you want us to have the best trash talkers in the game come on and talk about how it affects them and their opponents and their teammates?
There's not many. It's not. There's not. There's not a lot out there in the
Who
game.
trash talk or who
trash talk?
We'll find them. We got a few. Smith used to be a good one.
Yeah.
Under his breath.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on though. We've talked about this topic.
You know who we could get on? We could get Isaac on.
Isaac Saul.
Isaac Saul.
Yeah. Yeah.
See what he thinks about it. I think it's got to be like some New York person.
They're definitely up there.
Yeah.
Shall we talk about Zeke for a second?
Well, I just think it's worth an honorable mention that Zeke flipped off the cameras.
Our Bravo rookie, Mama Bird sophomore, Zeke Thornton. Yeah, given the
brights were a little too. I mean, the lights were a little too bright
for him in that moment.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh gosh. Can't say I condone that, but
no, I thought it was super weird, but it's legendary. It's hilarious.
It's pretty funny now. Yeah, it was weird.
I joked about it with him. He did not want to hear anything about me telling him not to do it. He just laughed it off, though. I mean, we were joking about it, so ideally, that's not hopefully that's not the takeaway people have from Bravo. And if it is, who cares?
Yeah, I do love like I don't know, just I guess I've never looked at Ultimate Reddit, and because of what happened, I looked at it, and I think I'm gonna go back to not looking at it because it's just I think anything with a bunch of comments.
Or maybe we do some Reddit. I don't know if AMA is the right word, but
yeah, we should
just like reviews of Reddit posts.
No, we should do we should like post something on Reddit though, because I'm sure it would get comments of like what people want to hear, and we could ask like some questions and hear some thoughts from the listeners.
I want to ask you guys what we were, I think, pretty clearly the villain of that game, and what would you attribute that to? Were there just more Machine Chicago fans in the crowd, or?
I actually don't know. Like we were talking about this after. Like I guess we were the villain. I don't know. Like we made a couple calls early that maybe made us the villain, or I don't know why. It might just be me. Like I might just, but we didn't really do anything earlier. I just do think maybe they had more fans and they were louder. I don't know why that.
I think they had more fans. And I also think that like us going up early turns the crowd against us because they just want to see a comeback and they don't want to see like the underdog story. I think that's like kind of what did it, and I think people love to hate Kins as well, which is
so easy.
Could have been some of the calls too that the crowd disagreed with at first.
Yeah, like the chance one set them off, like for sure. Like
yeah,
but what call doesn't set an ultimate
crowd
off?
We don't need to get into it, but the ultimate crowds, like everybody in the crowd thinks they're the funniest person ever when they're just not. Like let's drop the gag of like booing every call. Like that's not funny. Like it's not funny. Everybody knows
Yeah.
it's not funny. It's just annoying.
Oh,
like
dude, you are gonna get booed so hard.
I know, that's the thing.
like everybody just thinks they're funny. It's a culture. Like I don't know why, but everybody thinks they're funny and they're not. Like it's like
Thinks
It's
they're
like
original.
which dudes can be the loudest to attract the most mates. That's what it is.
Yeah.
After a few drinks, that's what it is. It's all. It's all.
I just think it's okay to not try to be funny sometimes. Everybody.
That's because you're not funny though.
That's fine with me. I don't care. Boo
Nah,
me
yeah.
if you must.
And also to wrap up this game, it is definitely one of the most. It was a great game. It was great for people watching. It's definitely going to be a memorable game for a long time, and I'm happy to have been a part of it, like the game, because it was exciting. Honestly,
It was a wild one.
It was wild, and I mean, yeah, you want to win it, and it sucks to not win it, but God, it was definitely you want to be in games
those moments.
like that. Like that's why. Like I don't know. Like
Yeah.
as someone who likes to compete, like it's
Somewhere
weird,
around 9-9, 10-10, I remember walking out to the line and just smiling and just appreciating how fun it was. He just kept saying, like, this is so fun.
Yeah.
This is so fun.
Yeah. Especially like the odd sort of like clarity I feel in those moments of like just immense pressure are very exciting to me. Like I love the feeling of like allowing my body to do what it's done a million times in like a really big moment. I appreciative, and it's very cool to be in those games.
Yeah, and maybe I'll segue that us to TK's blog post, the catfish blog, which we'll have to link. And he posted on Reddit, which I thought was a pretty good summary of what all of us felt. And maybe I'll just quickly start by saying, but kind of recapping what he mentioned and what you just said, and how fortunate we are to be able to play in semis, to be able to like make semis. It's so hard to make semis and finals of nationals. Actually after quarterfinals, Joe and I we stopped by in Fuego, that little cantina that we always go to. We had tequila and a Pacifico, some tacos, and then we were walking along the beach and just, I don't want to say that this was us being too satisfied, but I told him how emotional it was, and it's crazy. Like how many people do not get to experience that? What you guys got, that sort of game, that intensity, you may never experience that again. It's so unique.
I disagree. But
you don't think it's unique?
I think it's unique, but I also think it's probably more unique for someone like TK than it is for like me, or you know what I mean? Like
You're just built different, dude.
not even that, but I just like I that's all I'm saying. Like I think it's unique, but especially like I don't know. I grew up playing frisbee and like playing in games, and I expect and like feel confident that I will be in a lot more of those games.
You'll be back,
barring like my knee giving out.
I hear that too.
I agree with both of you. You both made good points, and I agree with both of them.
It's something that I just hope you don't take for granted is all. Because you never know, we might not make it back.
But you see, I just can't. I don't jive with this. Like this is like you guys being like the older guys, like telling us like
The
you
young
never
guys.
know, and me being like, and I'm like the cocky young guy, but I'm definitely like, fuck no, I'm going.
We'll be back
for sure. We're gonna be back.
We'll be back.
Unless we just pull fucking ponies for the rest of the time and just losing quarters. That would really suck.
Can we dub losing in quarters pulling a pony?
Pulling a Penske, but it has to be like when you're. It has to be like when you're super
like good.
It's happened
Like-
to a lot of teams.
Yeah, it has.
Yeah. No.
All right, moving on to the finer things segment, presented by Kiko Socks. Experience a finer moment with a new fresh pair of Kiko socks.
All right.
I can start. I was doing my laundry today, and you lay out all your shirts to get hung up, and you go in your closet and you grab hangers, and this is kind of like the roll-ups, Kins, but you grab the perfect amount of hangers for how many shirts you have. There's no leftovers. You just 10 hangers, 10 shirts, boom, in the closet, done.
Dude, did you say this one before? I swear to God,
I don't think so.
somebody just told me this.
Oh, really? That's weird.
Yeah.
No, that wasn't me.
That does remind me though. We should shout out a couple people that said hi.
Yes, I wanted to do that as well. There were
and
so
maybe
many.
we'll do that at the beginning as well.
But it did feel really awesome to be at nationals and a bunch of people that we did know, like a couple guys on ring, Saul Walker. That felt really good. But a couple
too.
people we didn't know, like that made me feel really good. A couple kids asked me what my finer thing
Alex
of the day
Vu
was.
That was Alex Vu. I think that probably asked you. He asked me as well. He drove down from the Bay, which was like an 8 or 9 hour drive.
And he was young.
He's young. He's
Yeah.
he's got a U20 Worlds
Yeah.
tryout coming up soon. So
Hell
good
yeah.
luck to you, Alex.
Yeah. Yeah, that was awesome.
Another younger guy, Zach. I think Zach is actually in college, but I can't remember if he was flying in or drove in. I think he had a busted wrist too, so he was recovering. And he said hi. So shout out to you as well, Zach. Thanks for saying hi.
Mm-hmm.
And then my finer thing, which was like kind of a sad one. It was I got in the car. It's a good feeling. It's like a nostalgic feeling. Yesterday to go to dinner around 6, a little bit before 6, which is typically the time that we leave for practice. And my phone gave me the alert and gave me the directions and estimated time to get to Long Lake Regional Park, which is where we've been practicing this year. It wasn't the best practice site, I'll say, but it was still. It's I don't know how to describe the feeling, but like just seeing that after nationals, post nationals, that maybe bittersweet is the right feeling, but it was
Yeah,
a
you
nice
never
little-
know.
nice little
You
moment.
never know if you'll be back there, Mikey.
You never know.
Practicing.
Dude. You guys could fucking fire me today. So
I don't have a finer thing, but I did want to just repeat what you said about feeling the love at nationals. That was pretty cool. And it feels cool, like just something that we do for fun that, impacts other people, hopefully in a positive way, mostly that feels really good. And especially if you are still listening at this point and you're one of those loyal fans, definitely encourage you guys to be interactive with us. And maybe we should start like more of obviously we list all our like socials and stuff, but maybe the Reddit thing or something like that is a good idea, because obviously like feedback anyone has about anything is really lovely, positive or negative, and as well as like topics you guys want to hear, just like any and all of that. Just don't be shy about reaching out, because it just makes this more fun, and I love it. I love it all. So thank you guys.
Yeah, I have one shout out as well. I had an Instagram DM conversation with a listener. I think he plays for GOAT. His Instagram handle is Jayla MBBB. And we had an Instagram conversation about working out and stuff, and so that was it was really cool. So yeah, again, like Ken said, thanks. It makes doing this worth it when we actually have people listening, and yeah.
thank you for validating us.
Yes, that's all we need.
And let us know what you think about the new intro song that we'll be putting in
That
front.
we're picking out. Also, iHacker, I don't know who you are.
We love you, iHacker.
And as far as I know, you're a real person. You seem to be an amazing listener, so I appreciate it. You've been our most loyal YouTube listener for sure the last few weeks. So shout out iHacker and whatever your number, iHacker 316 or something like that.
We love you, iHacker.
Love you to death.
We do it. We do it for you.